The City of Milwaukee has built a bunch of brand new bike lanes along with bump outs and other safety infrastructure to make the city, well, safer. But what I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, is that these bike lanes are almost always empty. Why is that? We're going to explore that conundrum along with a couple others on this first episode of the Shepherd Traffic Podcast. I'm Joel Roberts.
And I'm Colin Hughes. We're the startup Shepherd Traffic. We make transportation analytics software to make cities beautiful, livable, and human-centered as possible.
Hell yeah.
So today we're wondering, why is nobody using the bike lanes here in Milwaukee? I mean, after all, we've just invested in them.
Yeah. I use them.
You do?
Yeah. We work here in just outside the 3rd Ward, and I live up by UWM, and I take like the Oakleaf Trail. You know the Oakleaf Trail? It goes right up.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And you live,
especially now. I live pretty close, so it's about a 10-minute walk to the Oakleaf Trail, so it's nice.
Yeah, you live just off Brady, so the Oakleaf Trail is right by the lake for you. So I get to bike from all the way up by Locust to right by the Discovery World, and then I bike from there here. And I usually do it on the way back because I take a bubbler bike most of the time. And the close one is 2 blocks from my house, but it's like right next to the office. So
right, it's right downstairs.
Yeah, and I use those bike lanes, so I kind of get it though.
Yeah, so you start off on the trail, and then there's quite a juxtaposition to then going onto the city street. So let's think a little bit of what that looks like.
Yeah, the Oakleaf Trail to the bike.
Yeah.
So I guess the Oakleaf Trail isn't exactly a bike lane because it's not a new one, right? It's just for bikes. There's no cars driving on that. And the Oakleaf Trail is really great because it's a bunch of greenery and beautiful. But yeah, there's the bike lanes from where we work right across the bridge from the public market to Discovery World is it's okay. I run into the problem where when we go over that bridge over the river, or when I go over that bridge by the river, there's the light rail tracks, and so there's no bike lane right outside of the public market. And so I remember one time I got my front wheel almost stuck in there. I got stuck in there and I almost flipped, but I didn't because I'm great. And I remember thinking oh, don't do that again. And there's less than a bike lane of width between the outside track and the nearest car, right? So
and it's the fault of they can't really put one there. So there's the rail track that comes in. There's no place. There's the sidewalk, and people obviously take that as a bike lane sometimes as well.
Yeah, and I feel bad doing that because I
feel disrespectful.
Yeah, I run into and it's right by that Collectivo Coffee, which they have their little bit of parking, and they have extra outdoor seating, so there's a little bar out there right there. And I don't
people coming back and forth with their hot coffee.
I don't want to bicycle through your coffee shop.
Yeah.
I respect a coffee shop. I really appreciate a coffee shop.
We do. We're big coffee shop connoisseurs.
Yeah, but the bike lanes up on Clybourne, I use those, and I cross the street. Sometimes I'll go the wrong way because when you cross that intersection, or when I cross that intersection, I feel terrified because you have to make a bit of a left turn. I actually got confused because I thought you had to make a left turn to the left turn lane, but you just take the walk cycle. So I'll go the wrong way in there. But yeah, I'm basically the only person biking I see on that stretch most of the time. Oakleaf Trail, there's a bunch of people, but
sure, people walking, running, and then you have to transition to the city streets.
Yeah, and it gets a little more touching.
Yeah, and there you're fighting for space between delivery drivers, angry drivers.
Yeah.
Lime scooters.
The limes. I actually really like the lime scooters, but every time I see one parked on the sidewalk, I knock it over. I respect them if they're on the grass or where they're supposed to be. But if they're in the middle or even just on the side of the sidewalk, I'm just yep.
Get out of your way.
Don't do that. That's not the right place for you to be. Yeah. And I think kind of the reason that the Oakleaf Trail is full all the time. Mm-hmm. But the bike lanes on North Avenue or Locust or Oakland, those bike lanes actually probably take up a significantly larger percentage of just lane miles, right? Think about how many full miles. One of the great things about the Oakleaf Trail that I love is that it's straight.
Straight.
Right. It's
turns.
No turns, no traffic. Oh, you ever ride a bike on Lincoln Memorial and then there's a bunch of cars just stuck in traffic and stopped, and you get to see a Porsche, and I'm going fast in the Porsche.
And for that matter, even walking, you're going faster sometimes.
Yeah, you're going faster walking, and so it's like psychologically just feels better. And then also
momentum.
Also exercise and being outside and all that. But like just the sheer audacity of like you and your stupid slow Porsche. Look at me. I'm riding a rented electric bicycle that taps out at 15 miles an hour, right? Mm-hmm. So it just feels better
good.
In an egotistical way. Yeah, but like a lot of these bike lanes on other streets, yeah, they kind of a little bit suck, right? There's like a bunch of parked cars, and then there's the bike lane, and then there's the road, and so the only thing that separates you from the actual street is one white line, right? And when I'm driving and I see someone biking, which actually happens a decent amount, so I guess they're not as empty as we're claiming, I try to swerve so far that I want it to be more likely that I hit the bicyclist in the other lane on the other side of the road.
Right. Because it works both ways. It's not just that the bicyclist is afraid of the cars. It's also that driver does not want to be that guy in the news who hit the bicyclist. I mean, nobody wants that, so we're extra cautious.
Yeah, and even if you look at a bicyclist and you're like, what's wrong with you? Get in a car.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like that, I'll be honest.
Depending on the type of day.
Yeah, but because of what we do and what we believe, I have to be like, remember, they have every right to the street that we do. Don't throw anything at them, right? And so, yeah, honestly, anytime there's a bike or like even a pedestrian, I have to be like,
remember,
me being patient right now is part of what we care about,
right.
even if I feel like a worse person than I'm putting on at the moment, right? Yeah, but a lot of those bike lanes, I want to swerve as far out of the way if I'm driving, and when I'm biking, I feel like they swerve so far out into the other lane, and I feel bad because everyone feels uncomfortable. And when people swerve around me, it doesn't feel passive aggressive because I do that too. I know that they're like, I really, really don't want to hit this guy on the bike because one, that's a legal problem and you have to go to court, but two, maybe a guy's dead, and like imagine having that on your conscience. What a horrible thing. And if it's a kid or a younger person or whatever, I would feel so bad if I killed a person. Imagine living
or
with
even
them.
injuring them.
Yeah, or even injuring someone, and then you have to like see him around, and then people, and then it's like
Milwaukee is small after all. Same neighborhood.
Small Milwaukee. People hear about it. They go, "Did you hit that guy on the bike?" And you go, "Oh man."
You're forever known as that guy.
Yeah, and I live like just across. I'm like basically River West, even though I'm technically on the east of the river. And River West loves bikes, and I love River West. They're wonderful, crazy, weird people, and I don't want them to be like, you hit Mike, right? Yeah. What a horrible life to lead.
You would be excommunicated from the community.
Yeah,
you couldn't go to a dive bar or a local cafe anymore.
Yeah,
they would forever know you as Joel, that guy.
I'd need to get a face tattoo, I think, to win him back or something. I don't know. Yeah, but like you just feel so uncomfortable in a bike. And also, kind of like you said, you get stuck. There's an Amazon truck just parked there, or like there's an Uber. A lot of times Ubers, they double park.
DoorDash.
Yeah, which is very common, and they just double park right outside, or a moving truck, right? UWM has a lot of moving trucks, and
especially this time of year.
Yeah, and like one of the more annoying things is like when those things show up, it's like I can't see over, right? And so it just feels uncomfortable. And then another thing that happens if you're on a bike is, especially on a bike that's right next to a line of parked cars, is you get doored, right? Where you're driving and then someone parked opens their car door and you can't see them because you're coming from the back. You don't have a good angle in. Like if there's someone, you're never going to see it. You don't see their headlights or anything.
Especially if they've stopped for a bit now. They're texting.
It's loud enough that if their engine's up, you're not going to hear it. The air's rushing past your ears. You don't hear it. But they open that door and then like you just run into it and you get decked. Like a lot of people get really. I don't think it's the biggest cause of death of people on a bike, but it's really frequently a good way to get really seriously injured.
And you can think of somebody who would be most prepared for that would also be the most skilled bicyclist. So think of your typical hobbyist, your 50-year-old dad. They have, a bike that's twice as expensive as Joel's car, and
that's not that hard to do. By the way,
that's not that hard to do. You heard it here. and they're driving along and they get hit. So now they usually have a helmet, they have all the equipment. But somebody who's maybe biking for the first time probably isn't wearing a helmet. They probably don't have as good of a bike, so they're not as responsive.
Yeah, yeah. And does your dad do that? Do you know anyone?
My dad golfs. He refuses to bike. He's very, very anti-bike. He's one of the guys we're trying to convince.
Yeah, just athletics, but not cardio.
Not cardio.
Which I kind of get. My brother likes to golf, and
Yeah.
that turns into just like that turns into him being good at golf, and then me hitting a tree 10 times on a hole,
Yeah.
and then going on a nice walk. I just appreciate a walk. It's a long, beautiful walk, punctuated by brief, intense moments of horrendous self-hatred for just being bad at golf. Yeah, but anyway, bikes.
Bikes.
Yeah. So a lot of times the people who are cyclists also are like when I'm biking, I feel that it's dangerous, but that's part of the enjoyment.
It's part of what you like.
Yeah, like I also skateboard, and I appreciate that I get hurt a decent amount of the time because it's dangerous and that's what's fun about it. And so I actually almost got doored last week or the week before that, right outside the public market, right where I also almost I'm realizing I should just turn left at that intersection instead of insisting.
Prevent these problems.
Yeah, it sounds like a me problem, although it shouldn't have to be. I want to go by the public market. It's nice. I get to see all the Third Ward stuff. It's not under the overpass. It's pretty cool. Yeah, but I was when I almost got doored, they opened in front of me and I was able to hit the brakes really fast. And I was fine, but part of that is I'm 26 and I'm not in the worst shape, so I can kind of just do that, right? And if I knew my dad or my mom or older relative or friend was biking around there, I'd say hey, don't do that. I may appreciate a bike lane for me, but honestly, if any of my older people who are older that aren't particularly athletic, if they were biking around there, I might tell them, hey, go buy a car, right? A lot of new infrastructure is being built up, but you still feel weird. And another way to think about it is think about the last time you went somewhere on a bike or you went somewhere walking. You didn't think about 90% of the path is really, really good. You think about oh yeah, there's that one intersection.
That one end spot where no cars see me and I come through, coming fast, and somebody's texting. Yeah, it's the only thing I think about. I'm not thinking about, oh, look at how perfect and smooth that middle part will be.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's almost like the boyfriend memory. And here's a weird theory that I'll come up with on the spot. If you're someone's boyfriend, if you're a girl's boyfriend, and you're only as good as the worst thing you've ever said to her in a certain extent, right? You may be great, but then you just have an awful day and you're just horrible, and then you just are horrible, even if everything you've done is good. And so in the same way, if you have a bike trip from point A to point B, and it's mostly great, but there's that one intersection that just curdles your blood, you don't think about the other 99% of the time when that bike path was buying you flowers and being nice and buying dinner or whatever.
Buying you chocolate.
Yeah.
Telling you beautiful things.
Yeah, I shouldn't be describing it like this because I realize I don't do any of these things, which is not good. But yeah, that trip is only as good as the worst moment.
As that weakest link. So that near miss that you had is the only thing you remember. You don't remember about that peaceful, section where you were admiring all the greenery. You only remember that crazy person who almost hit you. And then you probably avoid it. You opt to driving or something different.
Yeah, and it's that asymmetric idea where a good bike trip is everything goes basically perfect in terms of safety. Maybe it can be a little bit inefficient or you get stuck here and there, but everything's perfect. A bad bike trip is you hit and die. And so a good bike trip is oh, I got a little bit of extra exercise. I feel better. It was nice. It was a good weather. A bad bike trip is whoop, now I know the year that goes on the end of my tombstone, right? And so, and we're, as humans, psychologically, we're, for very good reason, want to make sure you don't die. right? And
we avoid that at all costs.
yeah, unless you're me, and then you actively seek it out. But there's a really good reason because it costs everything, and so really taking out the fat tail of what's the worst possible outcome. Really thinking about how do you make the entire thing good top to bottom. And the problem is like it's such an investment to get to that point. But you can also think of that like it's not just you have to get everything from 0 to 100, nothing to perfect or it's useless. It's like every extra link that you improve are a couple extra trips that start to work. And you start to get more people who have a different risk appetite, right? And so for me, I would actually argue that, like, yeah, it's kind of dangerous for me to bike just in general, but it's way less dangerous than it is for someone else because I'm kind of fast and I'm pretty good. And even if I got hit, I feel like I'd be fine. And maybe that's just me being a stupid 26-year-old talking, but frankly, I think I could be okay as long as it's like a tap and no one's. As long as they started slowing down, right, I feel like I'd be okay. And I'm really happy and I'm really comfortable with that risk. But I don't know if... And you can think about, like, every layer of risk you peel off, there's more people who start to fall on the other side of the line, right? So you don't have to get everything perfect, but perfect should be an aspiration, you know? We're never going to get it. And we're always going to fall short. And that's just a thing about humanity. We're going to try our best and we're going to fall short. But you could be better tomorrow than you are today. You know, you could improve stuff. And every little bit of improvement is, you know, maybe a person who took 2 trips a year is like, oh, yeah, I'll do it 6 times, right? Or they feel better. Or, you know, it's a bunch of kids who they're moms are like, okay, well, you can bike to the park, or you can bike to school. We don't live that far, right? It's a few extra things, and that quality of life, you know, compounds, and it starts to turn into like longer trips start to make sense, and more people really start to get it. And so, you know, these things don't have to be chock full of people to be a worthwhile investment, right?
It's good that we bring it back, so it's justifiable, or at least there's something more here. So even though you're not seeing somebody, it's almost as if there's momentum building towards allowing for more investment funneling in that's having an impact, albeit small or albeit not as visible at first. And it's reaching a point or starting to reach a threshold where, okay, now it is a cultural change, or now it's in the community that something like this has changed. And all the kids are biking to school, and the streets are safer. And so these implications are real.
Yeah, or even like, you know, if you have a neighbor and they have kids, and like I have a neighbor and he's got a bunch of kids, and you know, he's worried about people driving too fast around his corner, and you know, I drive around his corner, and I'm generally pretty good, Jeff. I'm generally pretty good.
And you have to see him every day.
I don't have to see him every day, but I see him
enough
once a week usually, yeah, or a couple times a week. But like, I don't want to be the reason that his kids can't bike around or enjoy their own neighborhood, or you know, throw something in the front yard instead of the backyard that has to be fenced in, right? And part of that is like I need to be okay with that restriction on my own freedom, because it's kids. Like, yeah. My needs clearly come after a kid's, right? My needs clearly come after an older person who's, you know, maybe more disabled and needs help with their mobility, obviously, you know?
Or at least the design should factor in not just you, but the spectrum of those people.
Yeah, and so, like, if I look at a crosswalk and I'm like, yeah, I can make it. There's 3 seconds left. I'm 10 feet away, no problem. You know, that's sure for me, but it kind of mirrors, like, that idea of your bike trip is only as good as the worst moment, is that your infrastructure is only as good as, you know, the lowest rung of, or like...
Right, the person who's the least capable.
Yeah, the least able person,
least
right?
Least able person.
How many people can you enable to do stuff, right? And it's not even like about disability, it's about, well, everyone has an ability. An ability doesn't exist until you make it possible, right? So I could cross the 794 bridges on the highway just walking. I really shouldn't. Maybe I should try it as a stunt, but I really
shouldn't. And we'll record it. We'll get back to you on that.
We'll record it live. We'll do it live. But like, you shouldn't do that. And that shouldn't be made doable. But crossing the street or like biking somewhere if you feel like it. It's not even that I want to bike all the time. It's like I want the option, I drove here today. I take the bus a decent amount because it's right by my house and it comes pretty close to the office. And I like taking the bike a lot. And I want to be able to do all three of those things. I don't want to have to be pushed into one, place.
Because even the most masochistic of bikers here in Milwaukee would admit that on a 10-degree day in January when it's snowing and windy, that being in a car is a little bit better than being on a bike.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I feel like there's a level of masochism we could all aspire to, but I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know if and we can admire that when we see it in people, but
and we do.
Yeah, get a car, carpool or something, man. It's cold out.
Yeah.
And
don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself. But if you want to do that to yourself, we are very impressed. Yeah. So the bike lanes may look empty, but there's people like I'm using them. There's people using them.
Joel's using them.
Yeah, good for me. And another way to think about it is, it's also really hard to notice the difference between a bike lane that 0 people use and a bike lane that 10 people use. Because like even if it's 10 people an hour, that's actually a decent amount of people, right? But if it's 10 people an hour and you drive past it, the odds you see someone is like still basically 0. It means you'll see someone in that lane once every week or once every 2 weeks, right? And another reason for that is like bikes are a lot smaller than cars. You don't park your bike most of the time.
You're not stuck most of the time, as we've talked about. You have that momentum, so you can continue, or you can alter your route slightly, avoid something. You also have you have a lot more flexibility as a biker, and so you can also
you can cut across the road if there's no one there.
And maybe you don't take the routes at rush hour, so you can think of the peaks of traffic, of car traffic, as being at specific times. But then you would also think of bikes coming at different times. So bikes maybe don't peak at rush hour, but maybe before for morning exercise or in the middle of the day when they're more comfortable, when they're more confident. And that makes a difference as well in terms of the visibility. Who sees it? Because if you don't trust as well the infrastructure, you either avoid it or you take it at specific times. And that also implies that you wouldn't see cars as often. You wouldn't see as many cars, that is.
Yeah, and part of one nice thing is that if I leave the office late and I'm biking,
like today.
Yeah, so we're staying real late today on a Friday, no less. But if it's late, there's less traffic, and so that's just less of a problem to deal with, right?
Less of a hassle, less stress.
Yeah, I also have a part-time job elsewhere, and I leave at like 7 a lot of the time because I'm like because I have to take 43 or 94 to Waukesha to here, and I just don't want to deal with the traffic. And if I'd rather just stay an extra 2 hours later, and come back whenever the time.
Right, because you're saving time as well.
Yeah.
At least in the sense of your commute now becomes shorter and more enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's what I really appreciate about it, being able to take the bike, even though I'm not doing it all the time. But I love the option because, in the summer especially, it's just a beautiful way to go home. Like you've been working all day, your brain's fried, and I get to enjoy this beautiful infrastructure that other people built. I get there's trees and dogs and other people on bikes going faster than me, right? And I get to whip, and I'm like right on Lincoln Memorial. I get to see a Porsche, and I'm going faster than the Porsche because the Porsche is stuck in traffic, right?
And we're getting back to that primal essence of it. There's something so real about being able to bike and move and being outside, especially here in summer or even fall, is great as well. And being able to take advantage of that, it feels right. It feels real.
Yeah, and so just having that option is really great, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate that I am like one of the early adopters of the new lanes, right? But I think there's this idea that they're failing because they're not full, right? They're not failing because, like, if there's one or two people going through, even if there's like 3 bikes, it doesn't look full because bikes don't stop, right?
Yeah, or even failing because they're not perfect.
Yeah, and it's so hard to figure out like how many bikes are going through. Like you see the tubes going up. There's been tubes up on the Oakleaf Trail for like the last week, and every time I go over them, I'm like, haha, I got you another one, right? Because it doesn't look like traffic. It doesn't look like demand for bike lanes. Doesn't look like demand for cars. Traffic of bike lanes looks very different because there is no traffic. You just go, right? People pass each other. You don't need lanes.
You don't need stoplights.
Yeah. I mean, you need a couple stoplights, but you really don't need stoplights.
On a trail, that is.
Yeah, I just really appreciate the option, you know? I really appreciate the option so much. And, I mean, half the time I use a bike for anything else is because, like, I want to avoid parking downtown. Like, I want to get downtown, and I don't want to deal with parking because I know
Move your car.
Yeah, I know I'll get a ticket because I always get a ticket. I've gotten... I probably shouldn't say this, but I've gotten 2 parking tickets at this office. I probably should have one today. I don't think I do. I think I got lucky today. But
day off today.
Yeah, thank God.
Smoke.
That's another reason I also like biking is I don't get parking tickets on my bike. But I just appreciate the option. And in this idea of like they're empty, they fill. Like one, they're not empty. You just don't know what full looks like, or you don't know what usage looks like. It looks so different. But it takes so much investment to make it the quality where anyone can use it, from the oldest person to the youngest person, and where people feel safe letting their kids do it, letting their loved ones use these bike lanes, and where you can do it anywhere, right? But every extra improvement changes the worst trip for some trip, right? Anything that goes from horrible to decent.
But somebody's asking the question, well, isn't there a trade-off? So it's great and all that we want to care about these people, but we fund the government. We pay local taxes, state taxes, and we don't want it to be a charity. We want it to be mostly effective. What do you say to them? How do you address these trade-offs?
Yeah, and I think there's real trade-offs, absolutely, especially in like local roads where if you add a bike lane and you remove a lane, a lot of times you add a little bit of extra traffic. Or even with a lot of the bump outs. The thing that I feel the most when there's a new bump out is now all of a sudden I can't turn right when I really want to. And on the other side of it, you can't do like that Milwaukee swoop where everyone's lined up and you just go around them and
pretend you're turning right and
run a red
go
light,
straight,
which is like the worst possible thing. So, you know, and I agree there's trade-offs to all this. And I'm here, and here's some of the stuff that we're doing at Shepherd where we really want to understand this really deeply, because we understand there's trade-offs, but it's really difficult to understand exactly what they are. And a lot of these projects that are being built out, these rapid implementation projects like the bump outs, new bike lanes, where they kind of look haphazard because they've built out quickly as a rapid implementation, as an experiment. It's the exact same philosophy that we use as a startup where we're not thinking, let's get to the end, let's build the product. We're thinking, how do we make the next iteration? How do we run the next experiment to figure out what we can learn and how to do it next, right? How do we make our next step forward? Not how do we go from 0 to perfect and then scale or whatever, right? And get IPO or whatever the words are.
But incrementally learn.
Yeah, how do we
use these as proving something, as testing something, as validating one small circle.
How do we implement the next step to get the next customer, to get the next person that we can care about, or to fix the next feature? Like there's 15 things we got to fix before we get this person to appreciate what we're doing and where we've actually served their needs sufficiently, right? There's 15 things we got to do. We got to knock them off one at a time, right? And tying it back to the bike lanes, like a lot of the rapid implementation projects are bike lanes, and they're experiments where they say, here's something, let's build something quick and dirty and see if it improves, right? Let's add a bike lane and see if people use it. And it's a little bit funny, and we were talking about this before, where like on North Avenue, they added like a bunch of bike lanes and a bunch of those plastic bollards, and then those immediately got run over. And they go, okay, plastic isn't the way to go. Let's add big concrete pots with bushes and shrubbery and whatnot. And they put those up, and then 6 months later, and you've probably seen this. I know I've seen it. You'll see like, oh, the giant concrete pot got split open, and now there's dirt everywhere.
Right.
And I just picture myself as a concrete pot that got hit. But then I also picture myself as my own flesh and blood and broken bones, and I go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best not go there.
Yeah, and and there's a similar thing on Locust, right by where I live, where they have the plastic bike lanes, but they also just have concrete barriers, and those look a little scuffed up, to be sure, but nothing behind the barriers looks scuffed up. And I'd say, like, it's not perfect, but that's so much better than it was before, I bet. And yeah, there's still people who park in that bike lane, but if there's no one parked in that bike lane and I was going across the bridge, I'd be like, yeah, I feel great.
And so maybe it looks a little bit brutalist, like a Soviet designed.
Yeah, like a Soviet commie block.
Like a Soviet commie block.
Blown apart and
pillars everywhere, but at least the safe, so it's
and
the right direction.
And I might feel a little weird sending my kids through it, but I'd feel way better than I would if there was just nothing.
Right, this plastic broken barrier.
Yeah, and part of what we're really trying to do is figure out, like, those rapid implementation projects, those took like maybe 6 months to iterate to figure out how well they're doing. I think we can get that down to a week, right? I'd be really interested in, do we need a whole new project to figure out how many people are using the bike lanes? Just like plop up a camera and get 24 hours and just get an idea, right? And really decreasing the cost of that, because it's so hard to make the case for a bike lane that feels empty, even if it's not. And an empty bike lane and a bike lane that gets a good amount of usage look a lot the same a lot of the time.
And so now, even if you have the people who are most vocal against something, you can say, no, look at this 24-hour footage that we've put out. We've demonstrated that there is a set amount of traffic, and it's solving that problem. I mean, in a very much a guerrilla way, where now you're going out and you can address this, and now you can demonstrate the level to which this is serving people. And so now it's right there, and now you can advocate for that as well.
Yeah, and part of that design and what we're really trying to do is, when you change something in the built environment, that makes a bunch of new effects and that ripples out in a bunch of ways. But it's so hard to get that feedback, right? It's a whole extra study. It's a whole bunch of extra work and figuring it out. You have to stand there with a clipboard and be like, yeah, it feels pretty good. But there's so much information that, like, you just can't access. And like, that's the information I want to figure out. I want to get it to the point where if we put up a bike lane and and it's great and it's super safe and 2 people use it a week and it took out a whole lane of car traffic, and then it starts piling up and it's perfect and no one's using it, you want to be able to figure out, like, oh, this trade-off isn't worth it. Like, people just don't want to bike here. Maybe you wanted to do one because it felt good. Or, like, maybe people bike but they use the sidewalk because, it's more of a suburbanized type area where people feel fine using the sidewalk. And maybe it doesn't make sense. And we want to figure that out too and rip the bike path out and say, it doesn't work here. Let's put it somewhere else. Or, let's change it in a different way that actually serves the people who live here and use this infrastructure appropriately. But, in a city like this, I think we'd find that information and be like, oh, a lot more people are using it than we thought. And every marginal improvement gets a whole lot more bang for your buck than you think. And not only that, we've actually figured out that there's a couple of ways, like there's a couple specific fixes that get a lot more bang for your buck than you'd expect. And there's a bunch that are expensive that don't do as much as you think, right? And we can now start to figure out how to better deploy capital to really improve people's lives, right? Figuring out a better way to use all the money we're throwing at infrastructure and really, really get it in a much better place.
And I think that's what brings everybody on board. So it's great to have this humanity pitch, but to say, no, we want to optimize cities as well, that brings even the most stringent critics to understand. Like, yeah, I hate paying unnecessary taxes, but if they're being used towards something that's efficient and demonstrated as such, it makes me feel a lot better as a citizen to continue to do that, or to accept it and see it for the experiment that it is.
Yeah, and I think everyone's happy to see better deployed capital, especially when it touches your life.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think anything government does touches your life more than, oh no, the road is screwed up. Oh, there's a pot, right? Or at least is as readily apparent, right?
Yeah, because if you're driving 2-3 hours every day on those roads, or using that, commuting, biking, walking on the roads, using the infrastructure, that's one of the biggest impacts of your life.
Yeah, it's every day. And that's probably a good place to leave it, I think.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the Shepherd Traffic Podcast. I'm Joel. I've been here.
And I'm Colin Hughes.
Thanks for being with us, and check us out elsewhere. Appreciate it. Bye.